أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم Alhamdulillah, our dear viewers, you are most welcome to yet another episode where we are discussing why I should study Islamic finance. Alhamdulillah. In a previous episode, we were able to look at the components of Sharia. We say there are five. We have those things that are compulsory on Muslims, known as wajib. We have those things that are recommended on Muslims, known as sunnah. We have the activities that are halal, that are permissible for Muslims to carry them out. We also have activities that are makruh, they are disliked, they are not haram, but Muslims are expected not to do them. And we have the last one, which is known as haram, which Muslims are recommended to abstain from them. And not doing that earns punishment. Today, inshallah, we are going to look at the sources of Sharia. Since we are discussing Islamic finance, all transactions in Islamic finance, that has to do with buying and selling either commodities or rendering services. Some services are halal, while some are haram, while some are makruh, while some are sunnah and the likes. As I said earlier, when we get to that point, we'll be classifying them inshallah. For one to say a transaction in Islam is halal, what is the evidence? What is the source? For one to say consuming this is haram as far as Islamic finance is concerned, what is your evidence? What is your source? That is our discussion today. Now, sources of Sharia. Sources of Sharia are classified broadly into two. We have primary sources and we have secondary sources of Sharia. Primary sources, these are texts, these are evidence that can be deduced from two major places known as the Quran and Hadith. The Quran is the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent to Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam through and the Jibreel alayhi salam. If one recites the Quran, he or she earns reward. Now the Quran is one of the major sources of Sharia in Islam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَأَحَلَّ اللَّهُ الْبَيْعَ وَحَرَّمَ الرِّبَا. I've made trading permitted for you, but I've forbidden you from taking riba. You can see that is a text of the Quran. That shows that that text is an evidence from the Quran that riba is haram. That is source number one. Source number two is what we refer as sunnah. Sunnah simply means hadith. This entails the sayings, the actions, and the tacit approval of our beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. For example, Rasulullah says, La riba illa fin nasi'a. That is no riba except where a premium is added to a debt. Then there's riba in that place. You can see that text is an evidence as far as Sharia is concerned. These are the two broad classes of primary sources of Sharia. Even though some scholars make it four by adding ijma and qiyas. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, يا أيها الذين آمنوا أطيعوا الله وأطيعوا الرسول وأولي الأمر منكم. O you who believe, obey Allah and His Prophet and those who are in authority among you, that is the leaders. With this, scholars used to hold this as evidence where they bring ijma and qiyas as the third and the fourth primary sources of Sharia. The what is ijma? Ijma simply means unanimous agreement or consensus of scholars on an issue that has to do with Islam. When different scholars, known as mujtahid, use their understanding, come together and reach a conclusion on a item or on an item in Islam, such conclusion is known as ijma. Rasulullah says, La tajma' ummati ala dalal, meaning my ummah will not come, my ummah will not form or will not come into a unanimous agreement and at the end of the day, they go into a wrong way. The fourth one is known as qiyas. Qiyas simply means an analogical deduction. A separate episode is coming where we are going to be discussing this one after the other. Why are we discussing these sources of Sharia? Because all of them are applicable as far as Islamic finance is concerned. Before a transaction is regarded as halal and haram, as sunnah, this and that, these sources of Sharia are consulted. then scholars are going to give out their verdict or ruling concerning that transaction. That is why it is very important we understand the sources of Sharia as far as financial Islamic financial transaction is concerned. Now, the secondary sources of Sharia, where it serves as a support to the primary sources. Some of the examples include what is known as urf. Urf simply means culture or the tradition of people. Islam holds urf as a form of secondary source of Sharia. We have what we call saddu dhara', we have istishab, we have istisan, and the likes. All these are also under the sources, secondary sources of Sharia, which inshallah in subsequent episodes we are going to discuss them in details, inshallah. We've come to the end of this episode. I pray Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide us and forgive our mistakes. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.